The door of faith is always open for us, ushering us into the life of communion with God and offering entry into His church. To enter through that door is to set out on a journey that lasts a lifetime. It is to believe in the one God who is love. Beginning this October and continuing through November of 2013, our Holy Father, Pope Benedict XVI, is inviting each of us to consider these words when we find ourselves on this journey of faith. At the heart of this year of faith is an encounter with the one God who is love. We are called to rediscover the joy that comes from knowing Jesus Christ, for He is the source of beauty, goodness, and eternal life. Let us rediscover or explore for the first time the church He founded and what she believes.
I realized that as my children were getting into their teenage years, they had more definite questions that needed a definite explanation, and I didn't always have that for them.
Went to various Protestant churches for a few years, but really by the time high school was ending, my experience of religion, organized religion, of God, of church, church-related things really was less than positive.
We were faithful Catholics in this regard. We went to weekend Mass, we went to Holy Days of Obligation, we prayed the meal prayer, and that was about it as far as involvement. I fell prey to what the secular world will say will bring you happiness.
This October, we celebrate the 20th anniversary of the gift of the Catechism of the Catholic Church and the 50th anniversary of the opening of the Great Second Vatican Council. The Catechism and the documents of the Council are where we will go to dive more deeply into the teachings of our faith. This increase in knowledge will lead us, God willing, to fall more deeply in love with Jesus Christ.
I decided that I'd go to the bookstore and just start buying books on various philosophies and religions. At the end of the day, it didn't satisfy not only my head but my heart. It was God's way of kind of stirring within my soul these questions that would eventually lead me to come back into the Catholic Church fully.
I was in New York on a consulting assignment between law school semesters, and I heard Cardinal O'Connor speak on the Catechism. And something struck me and said, wow, there's more truth in one sentence of Cardinal O'Connor than in the whole semester of law school.
So I started digging into my understanding of the faith and realizing that it was time for me to know more. Beauty is the path to God, who is the source of all beauty. This is a quote from Pope Benedict XVI last year in his address. I feel that beauty, art can be a path towards helping others learn more about Christ.
Let us take St. Augustine as a heroic example. In his famous Confessions, he opens up in real humility to share that because of his pride, he came to the joy of knowing Christ late in life. He writes, "Late have I loved you, beauty ever ancient, ever new. You were in my heart, but I was outside."
You know, it was through some questions I had when I first got to college, and then through meeting various people and reading some books and all these various tools that God uses as an artist uses his paintbrush and his pencil and all these things, realizing that God has been writing this great story of my life, where He's been drawing this great masterpiece like He does with all of our lives.
So I was learning the faith for the first time, even though I was a cradle Catholic. And that's when what happens is every door opens. And then finally I realized, I went from never thinking about priesthood in my whole life to thinking I have to become a priest. And it all went straight from there.
It's very, very important to share that faith with others. In this year, the new evangelization and emphasis on catechesis, I am really making an effort to dive into the importance of the catechism and to share that resource with others, and also just myself to further my study of my faith so that I can then in turn communicate that to others, so that there is a great foundation and understanding for the reason for why we believe what we do. Not just an experiential based model, but just a very definite understanding of the faith. And I'd like to share that with others.
The door of faith is always open to you. During this year of faith, cross that threshold and discover something truly beautiful.